last thing we want you to do is an evaluation,
put our
rather than
top.
writing it right on the door, tell you where it is. I want to help you find it now. It's in tab 1, behind the roster and behind the agenda. I want to make sure you grab day number 1. So they look very much alike, but on the top in the header it says day number 1. That's what we'll ask you to fill out and bring up here before you leave the room. So, just so you don't have to search for that when you feel like, So the purpose of this session is to get you thinking about what it will look like to be online. So we have a few examples for you and some instructions for logging on. And just out of curiosity, raise your hand if you are already on the Learning Hub, the OPI Learning Hub. Not the MDPLN that was there a couple years ago, but the new OPI Learning Hub, which is still a Moodle portal. If you're there already, you won't have to do the login again. But if you're not, you need to. So just a reminder, a huge piece of what we do, and everything we've done today I think has been really fun, and it's exploration and it's opportunities to meet people and talk to people. And we want you to continue being able to talk to people and doing fun activities online. So as I said this morning, we've really put a lot of effort and energy into these online modules. In fact, we just met 2 weeks ago for another 2 days, and all these folks in the back revised the modules based on what happened last year and all the feedback and tried to make them flow more smoothly. And I think we've reached a point where we kind of know what's enough and what's too much, and we've made them more enjoyable. We know that the people taking these modules are teachers. So we're not reading long articles, we don't have textbooks, we don't have academic type stuff for you. We want you thinking about standards. So the kind of things you did today will happen online as well. Like we'll do an activity and then say, go look at your standards and figure out where this fits. What we do have a little more time for is some studying because it is asynchronous. So in case you're wondering, there's no like Tuesday night you have to get on and listen to a webinar or be in a chat room and be live. This is all on your own time. And we have had people do it 5 a.m., midnight, 10 o'clock during a coffee break, over their lunch hour at school. So we try to make it possible for you to be flexible. And we try in most modules to have something that has to do with your classroom. We don't say interrupt everything and for 2 days teach this lesson. But we have you do little experimental moments in the classroom. We also know that a lot of you are from very small schools, and things are improving now, but even 5 years ago when we started, we had teachers who just said, I have to go to school to use otherwise it's my dial-up modem at home, I can't download the videos. So we've gotten better too at, there's nothing too fancy bells and whistles about what we do, and that's because there are still places where it's difficult to do that. We've even as simple as we've had somebody put something on their personal YouTube channel, and 2/3 of the group couldn't get to the personal YouTube channel. So we will try to keep it very simple. They all look alike in some ways. So these modules are always 3 weeks long. They always begin on a Monday. And the first Monday is the day, that'll be opening day. It might open Sunday night. And then you can begin to work on Monday. Then on, though, we open the new stuff on the Friday before. Because we know some of you would rather work on a weekend and get ahead and not think about it during the week. Some of you might like to do it spaced out during the week. We do not open all 3 weeks at once. Because we don't want someone saying, oh, I'll just nail it all right now this afternoon and I won't have to talk to other people or engage in any kind of thinking about other people's responses. So think of kind of a Monday, the doors open for the first week, and then that Friday, the second week's open, and the following Friday, the third week's open. Each week is 3 at the most, but usually 2 separate tasks, pretty well marked. And we've kind of kept the due dates to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So a very normal thing might be Monday you look at it. If you want to get, it's week 2 and 3, you could get a head start, but let's say you're not that kind of person. So Monday there'd be something to do that might say by Wednesday, have read this 2-page thing and posted your ideas. And then by Friday, have written back to 2 people. And the second task might be, it's due on Wednesday to do something and finish it up by next Monday. So it's a rolling, think of a kind of a rolling 2 assignments that overlap a little bit in the middle. have done countless days of research, meaning we have surveys and we look at the numbers, and most people say it's a ton of work, but then when we pin them down, they say, well, I put in about 6 hours this week. So it depends on where you're at, and we think the 6 to 8 hours is everything. It's reading the 2-page article, thinking about it, typing your answer in, then looking at what other people had to say, going and searching some websites, and if you get lost in the websites for an hour or two, that's kind of your deal. But I think the average has come out, 4 to 8 hours and 6 is pretty normal. So you can anticipate that. These are the kinds of tasks we'll have you do. There might be some reading, there might be a video to watch. One thing we do is try to get you out there on the web to find resources you can use over and over again. So if we show you a math activity, we'll also usually tell you where it came from and where to find more like it. I know the stat people have done something like collect some data from your students, and then we're going to do something with that data, but we try to give you lots of lead time if something like that goes on. You do respond to other people, so these have instructors, but you're doing most of the talking. And then the thing that might be new to you that we aren't doing so much at the launch, but we will do online, is reading what we call learning progressions. If you're not familiar, the people who wrote the Common Core standards didn't just sit down and say, well, standard 1.1a, this is what we'll say. They hired out teams of thoughtful teachers and educators and mathematicians to think, in geometry, what happens? How does geometry knowledge grow? And they write these sort of essays called learning progressions, and they end up being 20-page documents that are, I call them stories about how math develops. And so in the geometry class, you might read 3 pages of the geometry learning progression. And I think you'll find those documents really interesting, because it's not a curriculum guide, but it's the story of how does fraction knowledge develop, or how do we come to understand congruence or similarity. So you'll read a little bit more perhaps than we're doing here. And then these are just kind of examples saying we do try to take the best of the best. Some of you are familiar with states that have done a lot of work, like Engage New York, or Florida, or Georgia, or Utah, Math Vision Project out of Utah. We try to point you to those places as well as some of the places that are built around the Common Core standards, like Inside Mathematics and Illustrated Math. So our goal is that you don't just visit those once, but you go back over and over again. So we always say in module, where was this, who did it, and what else is on that site. You already know the schedule, so I'll skip that. But there's your module schedule. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to get there. So Lisa just updated all this for us, because we now have the Learning Hub. And this is a link you should write down, and this is your homework for tonight, if you are not already on the Learning Hub. You want to go to learninghub.mrooms.net. mrooms is for Moodle. Moodle is one, if you're not familiar, it's one of a half dozen online learning systems that people use. U of M uses Moodle for their college courses. MSU does not, we use something else. But the state pretty much uses Moodle at the school level. So we're going to ask you to get yourself into Moodle. And so Moodle is just like, gives you access to a giant pool of resources, and the Stream project is just one of them. So we want you to go to that first level of getting into the pool. So you'll click on that Teacher Learning Hub, and there will be a screen that flashes up. If you're already a member, it'll say log in. If not, you'll have to create a login. And you just give it a name and a password, and what happens, Lisa?
Then you just fill in your basic information, name, email, address, and then it creates the account.
And it'll email you back or something?
Yeah, and then it sends a verification email to the email address that you provide. And you need to go into that email account and click on the link that is emailed to you to verify your account. And then once you do that, you have an account at Learning Hub.
So some of you may be doing that while I'm talking, which is fine. This is the one time you can multitask, because it will take you about 1 minute to do this. So get yourself registered, and then when it comes time to go to the regular Learning Hub page and you're logged in, this will come up. Well, try this, now I'm confused. So then,
Once they have their account, anytime that you go to the site, you log in by clicking login there, or you can, on the left, it asks you for your username and password. And I I bookmark the site and then I just have my computer save my username and password. So when I go there, I just click login.
And so if you haven't used the Learning Hub before, there's like 4 regions on the hub. One is called facilitated modules. That's one way to get to the course we're doing. Another way is to just jump over here to the margin and say, I have courses. Now, if you did this right this minute, you'll have 0 courses. But after tonight, Lisa's going to take our roster and just enroll everybody in the course that we have. So you actually would be able to start the math practices course tonight if you wanted to, but I don't expect you to do that.
Good.
You can just go orient yourself.
Yeah, and so we have homework for you. We're gonna check tomorrow, sometime like mid-morning, and we'll look at the participant list, and it says the last time you logged in. So we're just gonna make sure everybody was able to get there and get logged in. You don't have to do anything yet, but just click there and say, oh, I see this, and then click out, and we'll know you can find it. What you can do in the next 2 weeks is the first steps, which is read some material. So we have some grading rubrics that we use for the course. We'll talk about that more tomorrow if we have time. But we do score stuff because we really want you to have feedback. And you will see a place to introduce yourself. So you can click on the introduce yourself discussion and tell us a little bit of your background to remind people in the room that where you're from and what you do. There's also always a survey at the end that we ask you to take, and our evaluator may contact you as well to get some different information for the project evaluation purpose. So this is what it will look like I said, no bells and whistles. We try to embed all the links we possibly can, so there will be a little bit of instruction. We have you going to a website that we think is really important, so we might write a paragraph telling you what happens at that website, and essentially you will go there and do whatever we've asked you to do. So you're going to see a lot of text, not a lot of blinking lights and flashing pictures and live kinds of things. This is a very typical kind of discussion. It says, first reflect, write a 1-paragraph reflection. So you've done something in the background and now you're going to just post your ideas about it by midnight Friday, and then find 2 other people to respond to. And we will usually have a way, we don't just say randomly pick 2 people, we usually have a way of saying, find 2 people who thought differently than you, or we'll tell you to put something in the title and say, find 2 people who looked at a different standard than you. So we're trying to mix the conversation and give it a little direction. I know sometimes being online feels like you're just going through the motions and answering, and we do what we can to avoid that by saying, there's a purpose in you finding 2 or 3 people that you can go back to. The instructor part to us is extremely important. So you may find Terry instructing, or Cheryl, who talked this morning, or other people in the room, because we want a real human being. A lot of great knowledge comes in frozen form, or static form, or watch the video form. But we really think that getting immediate feedback and hearing a real person, having someone say, "Hey, I didn't see you check in and it's week 2. What can I do to help you?" is going to kind of keep you on task. So we go to the extra effort of training instructors, because research shows too that yes, you can be social and you can learn a lot from your peers, but you need somebody to kind of pull it all together. So we're excited that we're able to do that. Just wanted to show you some of the kind of K-8 stuff that we've got up there. So when we talked about having focused topics, we have one just for ratio and proportion, because it's such a big idea in upper elementary. We have one for algebraic thinking in middle grade. It's like, it's not algebra yet for a lot of kids, but how do they start thinking like an algebraist quickly? So, any questions about Moodle, about what a module might look like, or about the electronic side of all this? We put on the, Wendy.
What do we do if we're having trouble? I mean, I know,
If,
if we're having, like, technical issues.
There's a big, huge red help button inside the course.
Okay,
Click on it, type in what you're having difficulty with, and
okay,
the people from the Digital Academy will get back to you and help you with technical issues.
okay,
If it's something specifically course related, you can either email the facilitator of the course or you can email me.
okay. I was kind of more meaning like, my home internet has not been working for the last 2 weeks.
Well, that's
And
what,
and I'm working on getting it fixed, but
so,
I'm
That's
just saying,
not something we can help
Yeah.
with.
yeah, if power goes out for 3 days,
Email them from school.
do
and
we just
say,
get a hold of you and say, hey, this is what's going on?
I tell your facilitator, yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah,
our instructors are very helpful, they're very understanding. Like if you communicate and say, hey, I just can't get to this right now, they'll give you an extension. So just stay in communication with the person facilitating the course, and we'll take care of you.
and that's a good thing to keep in mind if you say, why are they doing it this way? The reason we don't do 3 weeks at once is we've got the people at this end, and then we got the people at that end who would do it all the night before it's due. But we would like you to have somebody to respond to if we say respond to 2 people. So these little chunky kind of deadlines they're a little bit soft deadlines, but they're also to help you keep going as a group. Okay, so we put on the schedule something about a 7 o'clock Q&A session, and we're gonna change that and just say, we'll sit here right after we're done today. And rather than make you come back if you have a question, if you couldn't get on right now and you're thinking maybe you're doing something wrong, or if you want to click around on the Moodle site while somebody's sitting here to talk to you about it, this is your big chance to make sure that you feel like you know where you're going when you get online. Some of you are pros at this, but some of you have probably not done much online learning in this kind of an environment like Moodle. So we'll stay here for half an hour. If nobody comes to talk to us, then we'll assume that you're comfortable with what you're doing. So, how did I do? Less than 20 minutes, I did a good job. So we're going to now do our getting up activity, which at the end of the day of talking to your table, I think would be a nice way to end and mix with some different people in the room. So at least it's gonna help us. Right, right? Sure.
No, all right, so, in your binder, I think it's behind tab 7, and it's right before the protocols. There's an exercise there called the compass points. So the reason for this activity is so that we can get to know each other a little bit, and we can learn about how we work as a team. So what are our personality types? How do we approach getting something done, right? And they found that there's usually 4 categories people usually fall into. One, you're more dominant. Others, you of course have traits in those other categories. So typically, you're gonna fall within probably 2 of these 4 categories, but one is going to be for sure a dominant category for you. So what I would like you to do is read the 4 descriptions that are there for the compass points. Read the north, south, east, and west, and choose one that you feel best represents how you would approach getting a job or a task accomplished. Okay? And once you do that, once you have picked the compass point that you feel like best represents you or you're strongest in, then I want you to go to that poster, that chart paper, of what represents you. So north people will come up here, south is on the back wall, west over there by Jake, and east over there by Jesse. So read them, decide what you are, go to your chart paper.
A couple of you might take your page with you. There's questions on.
Yeah, there's questions on the back, so if you would take those with, that'd be great.
See, I just. And we probably need a writing utensil, right? This is not you. Been married 10 years to you, this is not you. Whatever. Whatever long.
Solve on
Supposed to leave these on the back?
I come here with you, and there's no way I'm that person.
Okay, here's what I would like you to do. You and the people standing at the chart paper with you, I'd like you to answer the questions that are on the back side. Okay? Answer them as a whole team, and you need someone to record the answers that you're creating on the chart paper. Okay? So,
There are fat pens in the box.
yeah, there's big fat markers in the boxes, so grab a marker, have someone facilitate the conversation, have someone record the answers for the whole group on the chart paper.
What are the strengths of our style?
I put my pencil away too, so no one's organized.
I like to jump in.
Yeah.
I was gonna say prepared.
I told you.
Prepared would be another one. I like that.
You think it's not the same?
No, prepared is having everything in order first and organized is like once you get it, then you organize your information or your answer or your data. And it's all of that, I think.
Oh, don't throw it back in if you need a new one.
All right. Another adjective.